So have you ever been laughed at for doing the right thing? Or have you ever had anyone tell you that you were stupid for doing the right thing? Or has anyone ever gotten angry at you for doing the right thing? That's just what happened in the story that we're going to read today. Someone got angry at some people who were doing the right thing. And these men who were doing the right thing were called Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were children of Israel, but they were prisoners in Babylon. And the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, made a golden statue. And he must have been very pleased with this statue and with his power as king, because he told everybody, you must bow down and worship my golden statue. When you hear the sound of music, everybody has to stop what they're doing and worship my statue. And that was something that the children of Israel had been specifically told not to do. The first of the 10 Commandments was, you shall not worship other gods. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't do it. When they heard the music, they watched everybody else bow down, but they didn't worship the statue. And that made the king very angry. And so we're told that Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up? Now, if you were ready at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the gold image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning, fiery furnace. And who is the God who shall deliver you from my hand?" Nebuchadnezzar made himself very clear. Either you worship this statue or you get thrown into a burning, fiery furnace. Now this golden statue that he wanted those men to worship is a symbol for all of the things that the evil spirits would like for us to worship instead of worshiping the Lord. What might some of those things be? What do the evil spirits want us to worship rather than worshiping the Lord? Statues made of gold, so maybe that makes you think of money. Maybe the evil spirits would rather we worshipped our possessions. But in the teachings of the new church, we're told that gold is a symbol of love of self, loving me more than anything else. And sometimes that love of self is described as a love of reputation and honor. In other words, a love of what other people think of us. And when we let the way that other people think of us stop us from doing the right thing, that's like worshiping the golden statue. But that's hard if we get laughed at for doing the right thing, or if someone gets mad at us for doing the right thing. Sometimes we'd rather say, you know what, I know I'm doing the right thing, but I just don't want you to think of me this way. I want you to like me, so we're just going to do something else instead. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego probably thought, probably the idea went through their heads, yeah, I know we're not supposed to worship the golden statue, but that's a burning fiery furnace, and maybe it's okay this time. Maybe you know somebody who's essentially laughed at you for going to church, or laughed at you for believing religious ideas. Maybe you know people who have made it clear that those ideas are ridiculous to them. Maybe, if you're still young, living in your parents' house, you've done things because your parents wanted you to do them and had people get angry at you because of that. Had people say, look, who cares what your parents think? Just do what I want you to do. It can be hard to be strong enough not to worship the golden statue, not to go and do what other people want us to do. But what do you think Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said? Did they say, all right, we'll worship the golden statue because you want us to so badly? Here's their answer. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. Not surprisingly, that answer made the king very angry. It says that Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And then he tied them up and threw them in the furnace, and he must have thought he'd won. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had done the right thing. They had served the Lord, and the Lord protects the people who do the right thing. And so the story goes on. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. Look, he answered, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they're not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke, saying, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came from the midst of the fire, and the satraps, administrators, governors, and the king's counselors gathered together, and they saw these men on whose bodies the fire had no power. The hair of their head was not singed, nor were their garments affected, and the smell of fire was not on them. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego weren't burnt in the slightest way. Their hair wasn't burnt, their clothes weren't burnt. They didn't smell of smoke, because the Lord had protected them that completely. They still got thrown in the furnace. Just like we sometimes still have to deal with things that we wish we wouldn't have to deal with. The Lord doesn't stop all of those things from happening to us, but he protects our spirits from harm so that whatever else goes on around us, evil spirits can't touch us. All of the things that we're afraid of, that seem like they're going to get us if we follow the Lord, can't touch our hearts and our souls. Nebuchadnezzar said he saw a fourth man walking in the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And that fourth man was, of course, the Lord. When we follow the Lord, He is with our hearts and our spirits. And He keeps us safe no matter what. Amen.